At 0100 hours on November 15, 1942, the Combat Information Center aboard the battleship USS Washington was alive with quiet focus, the green traces sweeping across the SG radar screens like ghostly fingers probing the darkness of Iron Bottom Sound. 8,400 yards away, invisible under the night sky, the Japanese battleship Kirishima steamed deliberately toward them. A veteran of Pearl Harbor and Midway, armed with 14-inch guns and manned by 1,400 sailors, she prowled under the assumption that she hunted American cruisers. Her captain, Sanji Iwabuchi, had no inkling that a 16-inch gun battleship was tracking every movement, calculating every approach, and preparing to strike with unprecedented precision. The radar operators had been monitoring contacts for over an hour, their eyes trained to distinguish subtle variations on the PPI, the Plan Position Indicator, where bright blips translated movement, speed, and size in real time. SG radar, with its 10 centimeters microwave wavelength, could reach 28,000 yards against capital ships, though it could not identify ship type, only signal intensity hinted at size. The massive green blip at 8,400 yards could only belong to a battleship. The operators called out range and bearing to the fire control director continuously, their voices steady, betraying no hint of tension even as Japanese guns searched the black horizon, their crews blind to the American advantage. In 7 minutes, the era of blind night fighting would end. 3 months earlier, the U.S. Navy had learned the cruel cost of fighting in darkness without technology to pierce the night. On August 9, 1942, the Battle of Savo Island had erupted. USS Vincennes, part of the Northern Screening Force off Guadalcanal, patrolled the channel between Savo and Florida Islands, attempting to protect the vulnerable transport anchorage. The night was overcast, rain drifting across patches of tenuous moonlight, limiting visibility to perhaps 10,000 yards. Vincennes carried a CXAM air search radar, a 1.5-meter system adept at detecting aircraft but unreliable for surface contacts. Operators caught fleeting, faint signals. They could not identify ships nor determine threat levels in time. At 0155, Japanese searchlights illuminated the American heavy cruisers, Vincennes, Astoria, and Quincy, exposing them to Vice Admiral Gunichi Mikawa's strike force, which had slipped through the screening line undetected. Captain Frederick Reef Cole hesitated, uncertain whether the lights revealed friend or foe. That 5-second pause sealed Vincennes' fate. Japanese shells struck with ruthless precision. Flooding, fire, turret failures. She sank in 95 minutes with 322 men lost. Quincy fell similarly, Captain Samuel Moore among the dead, 370 sailors lost in total. Astoria fought for 12 hours, her crew battling fire and flooding, only to sink with 219 fatalities. HMS Canberra, an Australian cruiser, was crippled and later scuttled, losing 84 men. 4 cruisers destroyed, 1 American destroyer damaged, over 1,000 dead. Japanese losses were minimal. Night belonged to Japan, and American crews learned in brutal clarity that courage, skill, or fire control excellence counted for nothing if you could not see the enemy. By November, Rear Admiral Willis Lee understood this reality. Commanding Task Force 64, he had at his disposal the battleships Washington and South Dakota, supported by 4 destroyers, facing a Japanese bombardment force headed for Guadalcanal. Lee, 54 years old and a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy in 1908, was more than a naval tactician. He was a marksman of legendary renown. In 1907, he won both the U.S. National Rifle and Pistol Championships, the only American ever to do so in the same year. By 1920, he had amassed 7 Olympic shooting medals, a record unmatched for 6 decades. But Lee approached combat like a marksman approaches the rifle, mathematically, scientifically, with precision. Each trajectory, each impact, was a calculated result of physics. His understanding of ballistics made him an ideal commander for exploiting the revolutionary SG radar. While many officers viewed radar with suspicion, temperamental, untested, difficult to interpret, Lee had studied it obsessively. He knew its limitations, understood its advantages, and drilled his crews until they could operate the SG in combat as intuitively as a pianist reads sheet music. The SG radar aboard Washington, installed under Lee's supervision in August 1942, could detect battleships at 27,000 yards, cruisers at 20,000 yards, destroyers at 16,000, with bearing accuracy to within 1 degree and range accuracy within 40 yards. Its plan position indicator displayed all contacts on a circular screen, allowing operators to see range, bearing, and movement at a glance. Operators like Radarman Second Class Thomas Reeves from Minnesota could distinguish battleships from cruisers, destroyers from aircraft, even recognizing weather interference. Lee trained his crews not just to track targets, but to shoot using radar alone if necessary, a radical departure from conventional practice, where optical confirmation had been mandatory. On the night of November 14, 1942, Washington and South Dakota steamed north toward Savo Island, destroyers patrolling ahead. South Dakota suffered a temporary power failure, leaving her effectively blind while Washington's radar remained fully operational. By 23:30 hours, radar contacts appeared, small, fast-moving blips signaling Japanese destroyers closing in. At 0016, Washington's secondary batteries engaged, illuminating night columns of water with shell splashes. The Japanese destroyer screen was cutting through the American pickets, and behind them, larger contacts emerged, light cruisers and, more ominously, the massive blip of Kirishima. Washington advanced, unseen, 4,000 yards behind South Dakota, her radar operators tracking every Japanese vessel. Lee's command was calm, methodical, waiting for positive identification before firing. When Kirishima activated her searchlights on South Dakota, the largest radar contact became unmistakable, the enemy battleship at 8,400 yards. Lee gave the order, "Open fire." At precisely 0100 hours, Washington's 16-inch guns roared, firing 75 rounds in 7 minutes, 5 of them guided entirely by radar before optical confirmation was even possible. The first salvo struck, the second hit with undeniable force, the third tore through Kirishima's superstructure. Her steering was destroyed, engines crippled, fires and flooding consumed her compartments. By 0325, she rolled to port and sank, 212 crew lost, over 1,000 survivors rescued by Japanese destroyers. The entire engagement lasted 7 minutes, the only battleship-to-battleship night action in the Pacific, and the first naval battle where radar-directed fire decisively determined the outcome. The broader consequences of that 7-minute engagement rippled throughout the war. Radar shifted the balance in night surface combat, countering Japanese advantages in optics and night fighting training. Subsequent battles, from Tasa Faranga to Empress Augusta Bay, demonstrated both the promise and the limits of radar. Early detection, precise fire, and tactical maneuvering could now dominate engagements, provided crews were trained and commanders trusted their instruments. By mid-1943, the U.S. Navy had standardized radar procedures, integrated combat information centers, and cultivated confidence in radar-guided gunnery, forever altering the nature of naval warfare. The Japanese, once masters of the night, found themselves hunted in darkness, their old tactics rendered obsolete. Washington went on to serve as flagship of the fast battleship force, screening carriers in the Marshall Islands campaign, providing bombardment support in the Mariana Islands, and engaging kamikaze attacks at Okinawa with radar-directed anti-aircraft fire. She survived the war unscathed, present in Tokyo Bay for the Japanese surrender, a living testament to the decisive power of technology, preparation, and the courage to trust in the unseen. The men who operated her SG radar, like Reeves, remained largely anonymous, their work uncelebrated, yet they had rewritten the rules of naval combat. The wreck of Kirishima, discovered by Robert Ballard in 1992, confirmed the extraordinary precision of Washington's fire. Concentrated hits on critical systems demonstrated not chance, but methodical destruction guided by technology. Captain Iwabuchi never commanded another ship and met his death in Manila in 1945, attempting to reclaim honor after the humiliation of Kirishima's loss. Survivors of Savo Island reflected for decades on luck, misfortune, and the missed opportunity radar could have afforded. American radar had not just given Washington the edge, it had given the U.S. Navy control of the night, transforming the Pacific War, redefining naval strategy, and leaving Japanese forces struggling to adapt in vain. From Guadalcanal to Okinawa, from surface battles to carrier defense, radar became the silent backbone of American naval dominance. The electromagnetic spectrum, once unclaimed, became the ultimate battlefield. Ships navigated with unprecedented accuracy at night, convoys maintained cohesion under cover of darkness, and anti-aircraft fire became devastatingly effective. By 1945, the Japanese could no longer fight effectively at night. The advantage that had once allowed them to dominate lost forever. The men of Washington had changed the course of history in those dark waters off Guadalcanal, proving that mastery of technology, relentless training, and the courage to trust instruments over instinct could decide the fate of fleets, the lives of thousands, and the outcome of a war.